look at me. I want you to listen closely because this is not about revenge. It's not about playing childish games. It's about dignity, center of gravity, and the quiet power that comes when you stop begging for someone's attention and start living so well they notice what they lost. If a woman hurts you, and yes, she can, regardless of gender, the instinct is to fire back, text in the middle of the night, stalk her socials, plead, threaten, or beg. Don't. Those moves are the currency of panic, and panic always costs you more than it costs them. The fastest route from hurt to healed to desired again is not drama, it's strategy, it's composure, it's becoming someone who is harder to forget. So do this. First, remove yourself from the theatre of her emotions. Go silent. No calls, no texts, no likes, no comments. Not as punishment, but as containment. When you stop feeling the story changes. Your days stop orbiting her mood swings. Your energy returns to you. This silence is not emptiness. It's space for you to breathe, to think, to rebuild. Second, become the version of yourself that makes absence meaningful. I don't mean fake confidence. I mean real investment. Get up earlier, move your body, read something useful, finish a project you started and abandoned, polish your wardrobe, reconnect with friends who make you laugh rather than make you small. When you invest in yourself, you're not building an elaborate stage to perform on, you're renovating your life so it fits you better. People notice real changes because they carry weight. They're not fooled by theatrics, genuine improvement projects you're worth without you having to shout it. Third, set boundaries like you mean them. Boundaries are not punishment, they're a statement of self-respect. If she hurt you, whether intentionally or through negligence, make clear what you will and will not accept next time, and then live by it. If the line is crossed again, follow through. Consistency is magnetic. It says, I value myself, and I do not accept being treated as an option. Fourth, cultivate detachment without bitterness. This is important. Detachment isn't indifference, it's clarity. You remember what happened, you learn from it, and you do not let it define you. Practice small acts of distance that nurture your calm. Delete the messages you replay in your head, block or mute the profile that triggers you, and replace scrolling with something that builds you instead. Anger is loud, quiet is strategic. Fifth, when you reappear, and you will reappear if you choose to be measured, if she reaches out, be civil, not desperate. You can be kind without being available. Answer when it serves you, not when it soothes your fear. Let curiosity lead, not need. That balance, warmth with a firm boundary, is intoxicating. It makes people confront the reality they helped create. They had access, and they let it go. But here's the crucial part most men miss. The goal isn't to manipulate her into missing you. The goal is to make yourself missable because you are whole. People miss what mattered to them in a way that's proportional to the depth and integrity of what they lost. If your worth is visible not through noise, but through steady, non-needy living, their absence will sting and it will be their problem to solve. Do not confuse this with playing games. There's a difference between strategic dignity and calculated cruelty. We are not trying to punish, we are trying to protect and elevate. Revenge is ugly, rebuilding is beautiful. Let your life be the answer to the question of why you were worth keeping. Now let me give you a short checklist to carry in your pocket whenever the temptation to regress hits. No contact for at least 30 days, enough to reset systems and see clearly. One tangible goal per week, something that produces visible proof of progress. 3 social connections, rebuilt, people who elevate you rather than drain you. Boundaries written down, know your limits so you don't negotiate them away. A daily routine that includes movement, learning, and something you love. Finally, remember this. Power is quiet. Confidence is not the loudest voice in the room. It's the calmest. When you stop broadcasting your need for validation and start living with purpose, you shift the dynamic. People are drawn to people who are grounded. If she realizes what she lost, it will not be because of a dramatic collapse on your part. It will be because you became someone whose life looked fuller, richer, and less available to being taken for granted. Walk away with dignity, rebuild with intent, return only if the terms are respectful and reciprocal. If she misses you, let that be on her terms, not your desperation. And if she doesn't, good, you will still have the most important thing, yourself. Stand tall, be silent when it serves you, live loudly in the life you're building. That is how you move from hurt to healed to missed, not badly, but powerfully, respectfully, and forever remembered. Silence is a weapon, but not in the way most people think. Too many men treat silence like a trick, a manipulative tactic designed to make a woman chase them. That's not real silence. That's noise disguised as restraint. Real silence is different. It's not about her. It's about you. It's about the act of pulling back, not because you're trying to provoke a reaction, but because you are reclaiming the space you abandoned when you made her the center of your emotional gravity. Think about it this way. When someone hurts you, your instinct is to reach out. You want answers. You want closure. You want her to know just how much pain she caused. So you text, you call, you scroll through her socials, you construct speeches in your head that you'll never give. Every move you make, though, does the opposite of what you intend. You're not asserting your pain, you're broadcasting your dependence. You're showing that her approval still governs your behavior. And that is the moment she knows she can take you for granted. So silence isn't punishment, it's preservation. It's saying, I will not feed this dynamic anymore. When you go quiet, you cut the string that ties your energy to her reactions. And that space you create becomes oxygen. You start to breathe again. You begin to see where you were bending yourself into someone unrecognizable just to keep her comfortable. You realize how many of your choices weren't really yours at all. Silence is powerful precisely because it's not aggressive. It doesn't scream. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't ask for applause. It just removes you. And in that absence, she's forced to confront the weight of what's missing. People are so accustomed having access, instant replies, endless attention, constant reassurance, that when it's gone, they feel the gap like hunger. That's when the mind begins to circle back, to replay, to wonder. Your silence makes her remember the sound of your presence. But here's where most men fail. They break their own silence too soon. They treat it like a test. If I don't message her for 3 days, will she notice? If I stay quiet for a week, will she reach out? That's not silence. That's bargaining. That's still putting her at the center. Real silence doesn't watch the clock. It doesn't count the days. It simply says, I do not chase what wounds me. I do not water the plant that cuts me when I touch it. The first few days will feel unbearable. You'll feel the itch in your chest, the compulsion to reach out. You'll imagine her laughing somewhere carefree, untouched by your absence. You'll tell yourself a story that she doesn't care, that your silence is invisible, and maybe for a while it is. But silence is cumulative. Over time, it grows heavier. It moves from curiosity to concern to recognition. What she dismissed as temporary distance begins to feel like a door closing. That's when silence shifts from emptiness into power. And this is the crucial thing. Your silence is not about making her miss you. It's about making you see you. When you pull back, you find out who you are without the constant feedback loop of her attention. You rediscover the things that matter to you. Your work, your friends, your fitness, your goals, your laughter. You start to realize how much of yourself had been leaking into a space where it wasn't respected. The silence becomes less about her, more about you, less about her noticing, more about you healing. Now, does that make her miss you? Yes, often it does, because absence is louder than presence. When presence was constant, when you're always available, you're background noise. When you vanish, you're suddenly a silence that demands attention. People notice the absence of what they assumed they'd always have. And it's in that absence that respect begins to grow again. But even if she doesn't come back, even if she never misses you, the silence will have served you. Because what you'll gain is clarity. You'll learn that your worth doesn't depend on her recognition. You'll learn that your dignity is restored the moment you stop handing it away. And you'll learn that a man who can sit with silence is a man who cannot be easily manipulated. So when you feel the urge to reach out, stop and ask yourself, am I seeking to soothe my ego, or am I protecting my peace? Am I reacting, or am I reclaiming? Every time you choose silence, you strengthen your backbone. Every time you resist the compulsion, you prove to yourself that you are capable of restraint, and that self-control will serve you far beyond this one relationship. In the end, silence is not about absence. It is about presence. The presence of your own self-respect, your own boundaries, your own dignity. It's not coldness, it's clarity. It's not revenge, it's respect. You withdraw not because you don't care, but because you finally do about yourself. And when you live that way, you don't just make her miss you, you make yourself impossible to forget. When someone wounds you, the temptation is to make them the project. You want to analyze their choices, their motives, their silences. You want to decode every action, every word, every omission, but that obsession is a trap. The real work is not in understanding her, it's in rebuilding you. Because when you redirect that energy inward, when you choose to invest in yourself rather than fixate on her, you create something infinitely more valuable, a version of yourself that is resilient, magnetic, and unmistakably difficult to ignore. Let's be honest, most men forget themselves in relationships. They compromise so much that they wake up one morning and barely recognize the man in the mirror. Their fitness slips, their ambitions go quiet, their circle of friends shrinks, their joy becomes dependent on her moods. It's subtle, but it happens. And by the time she pulls away or inflicts the hurt, you're left hollow, wondering how to fill the space she occupied. That's why self-investment isn't optional. It's the cure, the compass, the anchor. So what does self-investment look like in practice? First, it starts with your body. Pain has a way of consuming the mind, but moving your body brings you back into the present. Go for a run, lift weights, swim, hike, box, anything that demands effort and leaves you sweating. The point isn't to build an Instagram perfect physique overnight. It's to reestablish discipline. Each rep, each mile, each drop of sweat says I am choosing myself. And the byproduct, strength, shows. People notice, including her. Second, rebuild your habit. Pain loves chaos. It thrives. When you sit around aimlessly, scrolling, spiraling, replaying memories like a broken record, structure is the antidote. Create a daily routine that grounds you. Wake up earlier than you used to. Make your bed, cook your meals, write down 3 tasks, and finish them. When you live by intention rather than reaction, you take back control, and that control radiates makes you look stable, composed, untouchable, qualities that don't just make you attractive, they make you unforgettable. Third, learn. Yes, learn. Read the book you abandoned on your nightstand. Watch lectures, listen to podcasts. Take up a skill you always dismissed as impractical. When you feed your mind, you expand beyond the narrow world of one relationship. You remind yourself that there's an entire universe of ideas, stories, and possibilities outside of her. And here's the thing, intelligence, curiosity, depth, they linger in people's minds. They separate you from the masses who stagnate after heartbreak. Fourth, refine your appearance. Not for her approval, but for your own pride. Upgrade your wardrobe. Groom yourself with care. Carry yourself with posture. This isn't about vanity, it's about signaling to yourself that you deserve to look as put together as you intend to feel. When you respect your presentation, the world reflects that respect back to you. And when she sees it, even in passing, she can't help but notice the contrast. The man she hurt versus the man who emerged. Fifth, revive your social world. Heartbreak pushes men into isolation. They cut themselves off, convinced that nobody understands. But solitude can easily rot into loneliness, and loneliness corrodes confidence. Surround yourself with people who make you laugh, who challenge you, who remind you of your worth. Go out, travel if you can, reconnect with old friends. These interactions aren't just distractions, they're proof that your life is abundant, that you are not defined by one person's presence or absence. Here's the subtle truth. When you invest in yourself, You shift from chasing to attracting. You stop broadcasting desperation, and instead you emanate stability and growth. That energy is magnetic. People are drawn to it, women especially, and if she catches even a glimpse of this transformation, it unsettles her, not because you're trying to provoke, but because growth is hard to ignore. She'll see the man who refuses to crumble, the man who built something better from the ashes, and in that vision, she'll feel the sting of what she let go. But let me be clear, self-investment is not about creating a performance for her to watch. If you're secretly hoping that every new achievement is a bait to pull her back, you'll sabotage yourself, because that still centers her. The power lies in detaching your growth from her gaze. Do it because you need it, because you deserve it, because your life is too precious to waste in stagnation. If she notices, fine. If she doesn't, even better, you'll still be living as a man who chose himself. The irony is that this kind of authentic growth is far more compelling than any game you could play. Anyone can ignore messages. Anyone can fake indifference. But not everyone has the discipline to rebuild, to grow, to elevate. That is rare. That is remembered. And that is why self-investment makes you missable. Not because you crafted a performance, but because you became someone whose absence carries weight. At the core of this transformation is a simple truth. Attraction without self-respect is fragile, but attraction born of self-respect is unshakable. When you invest in yourself, you teach the world how to treat you. You declare, without words, that you are not a man to be pitied or played with. You are a man of value, of purpose, of direction. And that lesson is one she cannot ignore, no matter how hard she tries. So when she hurts you, don't collapse into a heap of neediness. Don't perform for her approval. Don't let your worth shrink to the size of her attention span. Instead, rebuild, invest, elevate. Because the man who chooses himself over and over again is the man who becomes unforgettable. And whether she comes back or not, you will have already won, because you'll be standing taller, stronger, and more certain of your worth than you ever were before. Boundaries are not walls, they're doors with locks, and the person holding the key is you. Too many men confuse being open-hearted with being endlessly available. They mistake tolerance for love, forgiveness for weakness, and endurance for devotion. That's why they get hurt the same way over and over again. If you want to stop bleeding from the same wound, you need to understand this. Nothing makes a woman miss you more than a man who knows his limits and refuses to betray them for anyone, not even for her. Boundaries are the language of self-respect. They say, without fanfare, this is who I am, this is what I accept, and this is what I walk away from. They don't need to be shouted or dramatized. They simply need to be lived. When a woman hurts you, whether through disrespect, betrayal, or neglect, your first instinct might be to explain yourself endlessly, to argue, to plead. You want her to see how much she crossed the line. But explaining a boundary is not the same as enforcing it. Talking about limits while still tolerating their violation only teaches her one thing: your words mean nothing. Detachment is the second half of this equation. Detachment does not mean indifference. You can care deeply and still refuse to be mistreated. You can love without becoming enslaved. You can desire someone and still decide that your dignity matters more than your desire. Detachment is clarity. It is the ability to see the situation as it is, not as you wish it to be. It allows you to step back, assess, and respond from strength rather than panic. Think of it like this. When a woman realizes that her actions don't control you, that her moods don't dictate your reactions, that her approval isn't the oxygen you breathe, she feels the shift. Suddenly, you're not the man who jumps at every signal. You're the man with gravity, and gravity is hard to escape. It pulls people back, often without them even realizing why. Let's imagine two scenarios. In the first, she disrespects you, snaps at you in public, dismisses your efforts, or flirts openly with someone else. You confront her, she apologizes half-heartedly, and you accept it, secretly seething inside. The cycle continues, and she learns that your boundaries are bendable. In the second scenario, the same disrespect happens, but you don't argue. You state calmly, that doesn't work for me, and then you remove yourself, leave the room, end the call, go home. You don't punish, you don't beg, you simply enforce. In the second scenario, she is left with silence and consequence. That contrast forces her to confront the weight of her actions. Consistency is everything. A single strong boundary means nothing if it collapses under pressure. If you say you won't tolerate lies, but you stay after discovering one, you've taught her that lying is negotiable. If you say you value respect, but reward disrespect with more attention, you've shown her that your standards are empty. The real power lies in following through. Boundaries only work when you live them, not when you recite them. Now, here's where detachment intertwines with boundaries. If you're enforcing limits out of anger, she'll feel it as punishment, and punishment breeds rebellion. But if you're enforcing limits out of calm, certainty, she'll feel it as self-respect, and self-respect is magnetic. Detachment strips the emotional chaos from the moment. You don't need to scream, cry, or plead. You simply act in alignment with your standards, and that composure is unforgettable. Detachment also protects you from bitterness, because when you detach, you stop carrying the hurt like a badge. You stop replaying the betrayal on loop in your head. You refuse to let her actions define your identity. That refusal is freedom, and freedom is attractive, not just to her, but to everyone around you. People are drawn to those who don't crumble under pressure, who can hold their center, even in the storm. And this is why boundaries and detachment make you missable. When a woman sees that you will not break yourself to accommodate her, she realizes you are not ordinary. Ordinary men cling, ordinary men beg, ordinary men sacrifice their dignity for a scrap of affection. But a man with standards, a man who can walk away, even while he still cares, that man is rare, and rare things are always remembered. The paradox is this: the more you detach, the more attractive you become, not because you're playing hard to get, but because you genuinely are hard to get. Not everyone has access to you. Not everyone gets a second chance. And when she realizes that her access is not guaranteed, when she feels the door closing, she begins to miss what she once took for granted. But don't mistake this for manipulation. The goal is not to make her chase you. The goal is to respect you so fully that anyone who fails to treat you well loses the privilege of your presence. If she misses you, that's the natural consequence of your strength. If she doesn't, you've still won, because you've protected your dignity. So when she hurts you, don't shout, don't bargain, don't dissolve into self-pity. Instead, stand tall, set the boundary, enforce it quietly, detach from the drama, keep your calm, and watch how the silence, the certainty, and the composure create an echo louder than any argument ever could. That echo is what makes you unforgettable. That echo is what makes her miss you badly.